here is an interesting thought. No matter how you work, like if you are a business owner, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a freelancer or self-employed, whatever your work position, you are a child of the Industrial Revolution, or a grandchild maybe. So what the Industrial Revolution has done is probably not a very conscious experiment, but it was an experiment in trying to see how far we can get people to work like cogs in a machine, like to be literal puzzle pieces that perform certain tasks without necessarily having like human traits. Because usually, or more naturally, because we have been living for thousands of years in tribes, like we would interact in a way that involves showing ourselves with our gifts, valuing others for their gifts that they bring to the community. Then we would discuss problems. We would sit in circles around the fire and discuss issues that are present, because the survival of the whole group depends on each and every individual. So if somebody has a problem, then it affects the whole group. So we would do these rounds of maintaining the social fabric. And the traditional working situation, how it emerged in the industrial age, is quite the opposite of that. It does not necessarily bring people together as people, but it's there's a different kind of thinking behind that. And I'm not judging it as like right or wrong or anything. I just want to point to the fact that it is very unnatural for a human being to be kind of gathered together in that way, where in the beginning is not the group, but the whole thought process begins with the product, and then there is workforce or human resources. So the thing is that we did not transcend that. We are not past that point where this is kind of a distant past. One very, very strong remnant that is still here and is still as present as it was before is the work persona. The word persona, I believe it's a Greek word, an old Greek word. It means mask. So it is literally a mask that I put on in order to endure that position or that situation where I have to be a human resource or part of a workforce, manpower. And like as opposite to my private life, where I am a human being with needs and opinions and with my freedom of speech and with my emotional needs and all that. So what this does, I mean, obviously, is that it limits our potential as individuals, because like we are not thriving, we are more like surviving, because there is constant pressure, there is constant performing anxiety. No matter how good the conditions, like the working conditions are, I mean, a lot has improved since the Industrial Revolution, but these are all patches on the actual wound, and they do not really address the fundamental problem, which is why and how do we gather, and are we even here, you know? When you go to the other side of the spectrum, what you find is in these days, there are some emerging structures that kind of lean onto that ancient tribal idea. You can find that, for example, in eco-villages where people get together and start like growing food and producing their own energy and like repairing things and, kind of organizing their life around neighborhood and community and closeness with other people, it still has a practical goal the way a company would have as well. If it's not producing something, then it's at least maintaining a certain lifestyle. But being human is a central part of an eco-village. So people do not have a professional persona there, right? And they still have to get along and get certain things done. Of course, on a personal level, the responsibility that each individual has is trying to choose the position that is most authentic to you. And that, for most of us, means quite a lot of personal work, actually, like deconditioning and discovering who you really are and what you really want, kind of getting rid of expectations of your parents and of society and of what you learned in school. And at some point you might realize that you have been studying for 20 years or more a topic that you're not really passionate about and things like that. So there's a lot of undoing and unlearning until you get to that core of where you're like, okay, this is what I'm about. This is what I want to be doing in my life. And you might already be pretty old until you get to that point. And if you're lucky, you are still in your, I don't know, 30s or even 20s. But of course, that's the responsibility of the individuals. But there is also a responsibility on this side of companies, where it is about environment and it is about creating spaces where humans can be human and unlearn that habit of having a work persona, because it's not necessarily needed anymore. Like, for a lot of companies, people still try to be professional, even though it's not required. And quite often, which is quite shocking to me, is we take that even out of the employment world and into freelance work and into even our own businesses, like people who build their own businesses where they can literally decide all the culture, like how they want to have it, and they still reproduce that rigid kind of structure where people are just performing tasks and are just considered human resources. And it's a shame, because the most required skill nowadays is innovation and creativity for do that. Little story, I went to a Holacracy seminar at some point a while ago. Holacracy is one of those alternative hierarchies or structures that you can introduce in a company, and there's a list of companies that it doesn't have the classical pyramid-like top-down structure of reporting and responsibility, but more circle-like structure. But what I noticed, what was really, really interesting, how all the participants, me included, felt in that seminar, because it's designed to be efficient. It's designed to eliminate all the unnecessary discussions from meetings, for example. So the structure is very clear. It gives people very clear responsibilities and domains of what they're responsible for and how they're. It's a really good system. And you might wonder, why is it not widely known? Why is it not employed more? And I have a personal theory about that. Of course, one reason is that it is still relatively new, but the experience that we had as a group is that gets communicated the way it should. Certain urge to sabotage the system for emotional discovery. There is no room for things like abilities are all very clear. It's all on because the way, like, there's no room for them. And was one of the questions that I was left with after the seminar, is like, what do we do with all that we have? Like, where is that container where I can put all that? And I don't think it is healthy that Mario goes and discusses all with his wife. I don't think this is healthy, and I don't think this is this lives up to our potential as cooperative human beings. If we would take some sort of format, some sort of container, and introduce that to efficient Holacracy meetings, for example, where you would have a clear separation between emotion and work meetings or like task-related meetings, then the urge or that build-up will get the flow, because emotions are like natural. It's a primal need that we have to share our emotions. If we create a work culture, even if it's a perfect work culture that does not include that, then it's perfect for work, but it's not perfect for being human. So I believe that one of the reasons why Holacracy did not the old structure is because the old structure, while being less efficient, provides enough holes, enough space for people to complain and to emotions into something. It is not happening consciously. It is not efficient. It doesn't really because complaining does not really get you into a state where you feel heard and emotionally nourished, better than nothing. So my vision, or what I believe, is that the most amazing company are the people to be people. And containers, even though in the beginning it might seem like, whoa, there is so much time, and how can we make time for emotional discussions or sharing meetings and things like that? But I do strongly believe that this will make up for a lot of productivity on the other end. Like, I believe that if you that can meet for, even if it's 1 hour every week, for just a sharing about how they feel and what is going on inside them, this would free up space for productivity for more than 1 hour for each one of these people. Still, one thing that we can do, and at least one thing that we can do, and tools for introducing to meet the most basic emotional need of a human being, which is to share the way they feel, non-judgmental way, like where there is no expectation how you should be feeling, or no advices trying to fix you. Just say, this and that made me angry, this and that brings anxiety for me, this and that feels really fun. These are a kind of silent agreement that we try not to be emotional, and we try to hold back our need to share. And then the days and we are kind of setting ourselves up, and we are eliminating part of ourselves out from work anymore. And thing that I really like, I call it the question gap, is just to acknowledge that the way we speak also reflects our professional persona. The way we learned, even at school, to deal with questions is that a question is always, I'm not even talking about the pressure of having an answer issue, but I'm talking about actually not how our nature, like of being a human being, You can do this even at work or buddy. You can zoom in the answer. So what is going on there? If I ask you, so the other person, or you, instead of jumping, you would consider the way you question before you answer, or there is an answer or whatever. And you can communicate that, and you can go like, hey, I feel a bit pressured by 3 o'clock or whatever. Say, hey, I'm glad you asked, considered, and that makes me feel, just expressing. And cases that might even resolve where it's not about the answer. Like I might be asking the question, did you finish the report? What I'm actually trying to say is, hey, I really need that report, otherwise 2 and 3 will happen. And I feel and anxiety, and it's really important for me that you consider that. So that putting a gap before you ask the question. And another thing could be that there is a whole conversation that can happen in between the pressured by my question. Then I might say, oh, I'm sorry, it was just out of curiosity, or whatever my reason was. I do not mean to put pressure on you. But do you need more time? Things like that could emerge out of that conversation. And the other gap, if you tell me the report will be finished by 3 o'clock, then I might feel just to need to allow a bit more space. This doesn't have to like end up in an hour-long conversation about getting into the habit yourself to be human. Humans have emotions. Humans feel stuff all the time. You're the person in front to be going like, hey, are you stressed by my question? Is that you? Or I ask that I'm feeling some tension now, or things like that. There is endless possibility. Just a little inspiration maybe for you to try something different and invite more of your humanness. And I believe that if we do that more, then eventually we can drop the mask and we can drop the persona and invite more of those private of us, the parts that we consider private, into our work life, because we spend so much time at work, like most of us, hours every day. The world would be amazing if we would be really present at work with ourselves and with each other. So I thank you very much for listening, and take good care.